What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast with myself and, of course, the brains and brawn of the situation. The big homie, Coach Miguel Santa, is over there, and he says Dallas still sucks with the new wide receiver. Yeah, Dallas picked up a new wide receiver today, but we'll see. The rest of the team is still the same. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are here on a Wednesday this week instead of a Tuesday. You know, when you're doing these things and you're doing out of the love of what you do, you know, the other parts of life can happen and you got to delay some things. And that's what happened. We got to delay some things, but we're here today to bring you a few things that we're going to talk. We got a few things on the agenda, a few things we took off the agenda that, of course, come back to. But the Eagles, of course, since the last time we spoke to you, the Eagles made a signing. We'll talk to you about that if you haven't heard about that. And of course, there's a big NFL star that was just recently cut. Big NFL star, one of the best at this position, was just recently cut. We'll talk about that. An NBA coach, an NBA great, calls it a career, and a few other things. Most notably, one of the things that's probably going to get a lot of conversation today is Cam Newton and Deion Sanders' take on the state of baseball in our country, in the United States of America. But before we actually get into it, I got to ask my folks how they been. So, Coach Miguel, how you been, man?
Been well. This past Saturday, we celebrated the first birthday of my granddaughter, Miss Alora. Yeah, looking like a princess. And I forgot to. Do I have a picture of her? Oh God.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Adorable alert! Adorable alert! Let me see if I can get this up on the screen. There it is. So there's Miss Queen Alora.
Oh,
the little 1-year-old with the bow on her head.
She looks like she knows everybody's there to see her.
Yep. She also took a 2-hour nap prior to, and then took a 5-minute dump, and so she was very happy.
Well, that is the recipe for happiness. That is the recipe for happiness. I'll tell you that right now. But happy birthday to her. The first one of many. If
they can afford it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Right.
They got to be able to afford it. They'll be having all these babies and can't afford it.
I meant birthdays for the baby.
Oh, damn. Okay, sorry.
First of many babies. Okay, that's why we were so. That's why I was so lost.
I apologize. My apologies.
And another thing that's happening, of course, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and we'll give you a quick update on that because the first round was pretty good, but the second round so far has been really good, and we got some things that we're going to bring up about that. But first and foremost, so the Eagles made a signing. Since the last time we spoke to you, I believe it was
Wednesday.
2 days after we spoke, or the day after.
It was the next day, yeah.
It was the next day after we spoke to you last. Of course, it was last Wednesday. And the Eagles did this. They exercised, and we talked about it on the show prior to it happening, but they exercised the 5th-year option on defensive tackle Jordan Davis. For many reasons, business reasons, of course, being one of the biggest, but a lot of people, I wouldn't say confused about the move, but a lot of people are looking at this move because, up until now, his first 2 years of his career, a lot of people have been saying that he hasn't lived up to that first round hype, that first round expectations, right? Kind of sounds familiar of a recent Eagle that just retired, where he wasn't living up to it, but then became an Eagle, all-time Eagle great. Of course, I'm talking about Brandon Graham. But as we go back, we talk about Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is done great against the run. He hasn't done much against the pass as much as people would like him to be that. But they exercise that option, and Miguel, I think it's kind of the thing where, like, if they didn't exercise the option, he would be a free agent after this season, correct? And it's the type of thing where if he blows up this season, like if he has a great season, he goes into free agency and he's going to get the bag. He's going to get paid.
Mhm.
Let's exercise this option on him now because if he blows up, now he's going to have to do it for a couple more years. We still have control of his professional football playing NFL career right now for a couple more years, just in case he does blow up and make it happen. But he also has a few years to do it. He also has a few years to prove it. So it's kind of on a 3-year prove it deal. How did you feel about it?
I like it. And it reminds me of some of the defensive linemen that we signed that everybody's like, oh, well, he only had like 2 or 3 sacks, but it's like if he's there for the run game, he's not there necessarily for sacks. I think that's what the other dude is there. Jalen Carter is there for, and whoever their ends are, that's what they're there for. Because I mean, he's immovable at 6 feet 6, 336 pounds, and it's like and
Yeah.
even when you look at his stats, I mean, what did he have? He's accumulated 102 tackles, 8 for loss, 31 QB pressures, 10 QB hits, 5.5 sacks during his time, including the playoffs. So he's not doing nothing, but I think he's the one that kind of generates. It's like what Fletcher Cox was doing towards the end of his career. He was like generating or attracting the double team.
Mhm.
He reminded me of the Corey Simon back in the day before his injuries and stuff. Um, but yeah, I think it's you got to do it now because he's still young. Get him a
Yeah.
few more years out of him before he goes, and we're set up for. I want to say at least maybe 3, maybe 4 more years with this core on defense and offense. So I like it.
I also feel like he could be one. I mean, I know he didn't play a majority of snaps during the year, but I feel like he could be one of the reasons that Zach Bond had as good of a year that he did this year. I mean, he's Zach Bond himself is an incredible athlete, but one of the jobs of your defensive line is to keep your linebackers clean. In a sense, keep those offensive linemen from getting to the second level on those run plays. And if you have to deal with a 6'6", 300-something-pound defensive lineman, it's going to be hard for you to get to that second level to block those linebackers. And no, I think he does a good job of that. And I think that is one of the things that's kind of lost in this that people don't understand is he keeps your linebackers clean, allows them to make plays, and the Eagles up until last year really were not known to have the greatest linebackers. Right, we know this. Now we know that one of the draft pick Campbell Jahai Campbell, he linebacker or edge. So we'll kind of see where that ends up. But if he ends up in the linebacker spot, Jordan Davis is going to help keep him clean and help him make tackles, or help free him to make tackles. And it could lend to a great rookie season for the Eagles' first round pick this year. I like it. I like the extension. If it doesn't work out, he was on his rookie deal. You didn't have to spend a whole heck of a lot. If it does work out, it first. You get to make it happen, and I'm sure Howie will do that. Um, he has a lot of confidence in Howie right now, to say the least. To say the least.
To say the least.
Um, in other NFL news, one of the best of a position during his career, I was 11 years. I forgot how many years he played. Don't worry about looking it up. Was cut yesterday, actually. Yesterday. Um, of course, I'm talking about Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, who they said was released for football reasons. Football reasons. Miguel, you got the ears of the streets of Baltimore. What's the feel down there of Justin Tucker being cut? Are they how are the fans feeling about that?
Mixed in being upset and being disappointed. It's like why couldn't it be like an injury or the old fashioned coach don't like him or anything like that? Why did it have to be a so the story that when it first came out, they were like, oh well, this is Deshaun Watson 2.0, but he got banned from places that people don't even know about. You know what I mean? Like it's there. There were people that were like, I didn't even know there was one around the corner from me. Like really? Like so.
Well, for those that may not know,
For those that
tell
may
what
not,
tell the folks the type of places that you're speaking of.
these are very low end massage parlors that offer great shiatsu and they also specialized in happiness of endings. So,
I think didn't we used to call that like back in the didn't call the washi washi? Didn't call it that, or is
I
that
don't know
something? I'm trying to
that
remember.
what you said may not be constituted as racism, but I think you just made a racist statement. Um,
My
but
bad if I did.
but
The ignorance of the streets.
yeah, there you go. But yeah, so the story came out because there were several of these establishments where the workers actually complained to the owners of these establishments, and the owners actually complained publicly that he was disrespectful to the employees that were serving him, or yeah, I guess serving him. I guess that's the proper term.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
yeah, and he was literally banned. I believe the last count was from 10 to 13 establishments um, in the area of Baltimore. So,
Damn.
but it's funny because they say that it was a football decision that he was cut. And I know he was in a down year,
Mhm.
but it's not every day you hear that someone gets you know the most accurate kicker in the history of the game getting cut. Um,
Yeah.
but when he's off, he's off. I mean, maybe they can kind of hide behind the whole. Well, look at his off year. He missed all these extra points, and but I think literally I complained about that last year. Like it seemed like the extra point was just so hard to make this year. I.e., with our kicker, Elliott, except for the Super Bowl where he nailed everything, but throughout the regular season he struggled with the extra point. So they
Mhm.
had viable reason, but I think if you're a legend in your position, it should take longer than one bad season to get you cut. So football decision. Everybody in the city of Baltimore knows that it's BS about it being a football decision. They know.
It was a football business decision. That's what I would say. That's what I would call it. As a fan, that's what I would call it. A football business decision.
Yeah, but everyone knows it was a PR. Everybody knows it was a PR thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't have your kicker. What I'm about to say is going to be it's going to sound very ignorant, but it's the truth of professional sports. If you're going to have somebody bringing your team bad headlines, it can't be your kicker. I think that might be the best way I could say that. It cannot be your kicker. Okay. You don't want bad headlines as a friend. You don't want it anyway, but it can't be your kicker. And it can't be somebody that is easily removable because you will be removed. Okay. Don't think because you are a professional athlete that you are untouchable. No. They'll get rid of you quick, especially if they don't need you. All right. Um One quick note. Um in my head I'm trying to do real quick math, but we may have the Wells Fargo Center. or the building that will soon be formerly known as the Wells Fargo Center has got a new name, right? So I was trying to do all the names in my head real quick, right? Had the Core State Center, the Wachovia Center, no, Core State Center, First Union Center, Wachovia Center.
No. It was called the FU Center. Remember?
Yes. Yes, it was. Um, and then I believe it was Wells Fargo after that.
Yeah.
From Wachovia to Wells Fargo, and now it will now be known as the. Would you like to say the name, Miguel?
This sounds so millennial. It's the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
The Xfinity Mobile Arena. And you know what, Miguel, what you just said is probably the perfect explanation. It does sound very millennial. And because when I heard it, I was like, it doesn't sound like it fits because it doesn't sound like I guess it's been named after banks for the last 20 years, 25 years, whatever it's been. 30 years? Has it been 30?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's 30. Okay, so it's been named after banks for the last 30 years, and now it's named the the Xfinity Mobile Arena. It
And
just feels like crypto or something. Just feels
yeah, and it's funny because there's a picture online, and it looks like a glorified Xfinity cell phone store.
what you mean?
I'll show
What
you. There's you
they're
know how they
making
show
like the photo is making the arena look like a
yeah.
glorified cell phone store. Oh, okay. All right, guys, let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean if that's ooh, hey, we just gonna have to get used to it, I guess. We're gonna have to get used to it. We got used to. I mean, when it was called Wachovia, we were like, "What? What is that?" It was like
Right.
that was like the ugliest name ever. But we got used to it. We loved it. And it's ours. It's where the Flyers plays, where the Sixers plays, where the circus comes to town. Does that still happen? The circus still come to town? Barnum and Bailey's out of business, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't even know.
We still have the Universal Circus.
Universal Circus, but they don't go to the Wachovia. They don't go to the arena. They go to
Man,
the park, don't
they,
they?
they usually go to Man Music, the park out Fairmount Park out by the
Yeah,
Man Music Center. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a little different there. I actually do remember one time going to the circus. Oh, a long time ago, boy. I remember one time, a long time ago. I wonder if I ever went twice, but I don't know. I do remember I was a little kid. I do remember going.
It was my only time I ever went to the Spectrum. I went to the circus,
Oh
school trip.
yeah.
Only time I was at the Spectrum.
Or you were not one of those sneak into the spectrum people?
No, I snuck into the vet, but I didn't sneak into the.
That's what it was. This the vet. I didn't sneak into either one because I didn't know you could. And I had to make my way all the way down there anyway. So
Yeah.
how could you sneak into the vet? I want to know. I've never asked anybody how they snuck into the vet.
So this is how I did it because this was before cameras. This was before scanning tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you take the Broad Street subway and you come up the ramp, usually there used to be two big ramps that like take you right into I want to say third base side, right?
Okay.
The first like 5 or 6 ramps are always the most crowded because it's the first thing you see coming off the thing. You got to find the ramps that have the least amount of people in it, which is usually out by the outfield.
Okay.
So sometimes they would have they always had the older ticket agents on that end, so it was kind of easy to distract them, so to speak, and then one of us would come in, and then
Okay.
but I've that's kind of how we did it. There's
Mhm.
also I'm trying to think. Some people have said that you can actually climb a fence because there's when you're going towards left field side and at the vet, there was like I guess a blind spot
Mm-hmm.
So if you found that blind spot, you kind of sneak in, but you had to kind of be like a specific build to even fit through that damn thing. But
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's because I never really heard anybody say how they would sneak in. I just always heard about people saying they would sneak into the vet.
you know,
But now I know. Okay, like I thought it was like a hole that in the somewhere that people knew about or something like an open door that somebody knew about, but it was just tactical. I got you. Tactical move.
it was for me anyway.
The old bait and switch, distract the person, everybody running behind. I got you.
Go find the oldest guy, ask him
Right.
about Geritol.
Yo, you remember I think we talked about it on the show before, but remember you used to be able to bring food into the vet.
Yeah.
I remember one time I think my dad took me to a baseball game. And there was this guy. I don't know if he was next to us, behind us, or in front. I don't remember. But he was around us, and he had a hoagie, and he had like some whiskey or something, some type of liquor he had. And I just remember my dad saying, "Well, it's going to stink up here in a little bit." I just remember him saying something along those lines. And I didn't know why, because little kid, I don't know. I don't know what adults know about that type of stuff at the time, but it's just a shame you can't bring your food into the games anymore. I mean, they have such great food there now, but you got to stand in line and miss half the game to get it.
Yeah, but there's also some, that they have these ordering mechanisms, like they actually bring the food to you. I actually witnessed that when I went to, it was the Nationals versus the Mets last year. One of my cousins works for the company that has the ATMs inside the stadium.
Okay.
So he actually gets a lot of, perks, a lot of free tickets and stuff like that. So we actually sat in I forget what the name of it, but it's basically like the suite behind home plate. So we literally had like a full buffet. We can watch the team actually take batting practice, all that stuff. But then when we get into the actual venue, the stadium, um, you can actually order it. Kind of like what they do at the AMC theater now. They come
Mhm.
to you, you order your food, they bring it out. And even the way they serve the food now, like literally, you can just go up and scan it and then take it back to your seat. So it's a lot more convenient now. So
Well, I haven't been to a game where that has happened yet, where they're doing that yet. Unfortunately, because I can remember I took my daughter to her first game, and of course, the way that we went in, of course, we had to walk past the ice cream, and she had to have the ice cream, right?
mhm.
So we probably missed the first 3 innings standing in line, waiting for this expensive ice cream. Let me just tell you, like, of course, everything's in there is expensive, but we probably missed the first 3 innings. They were playing the Diamondbacks, and we probably were there for a good 3 innings. They were losing, and then she was like, "I'm ready to go." So I probably saw a good 3 innings of the game, maybe four of that game. But I would love to have the service where they bring the food to you because they will probably get a lot more orders from me. So that's the only reason I don't get the food because I don't want to get up. I like never leave my seat once I'm down.
Right. So what I usually do, I get there like hella early. I'll get there at like, maybe an hour before the game. And that's just me.
Mhm.
I've always done it even when I was a child. I was like, try to even get you ever try to get there early enough that you actually see the visiting team batting practice?
So I can remember doing that a long time ago.
Mm.
Like because I don't even know. Like I don't even know if you can do that now. Are you able to go see batting practice now?
I think they show like the tail end of it. I think that's when
Okay.
they open it. But I remember they always used to say if you want to see visiting team back in practice, get there by 5:30 because that's when the gates would open. And then
Okay.
from like 5:30 to like 6:15, you'd be able to see, all that stuff. And then 6:15 to like 7 was like all the pregame stuff and. But yeah, I still do that today. I'd rather get to a game like an hour early so I can get all the food that I want. I can kind of relax and gradually get to my seat. And then, like you said, once I'm in my seat, I'm in my seat. I ain't going nowhere.
Right. Right. I'm like that with movies. I'm like that with sports. I don't want to miss anything.
Right.
Um, let's move on to real quick. I'm gonna just give a quick update on the NBA playoffs, and then we got to talk about the NBA star calling it a career. NBA playoffs, Eastern Conference. Like I said, Miguel, you've been missing out on a couple of good series. The Pacers are leading the number one seeded Cleveland Cavaliers 2-1. Came back from quite a deficit yesterday and came back and won that game in Cleveland. Cleveland has a few injuries on their roster right now, so they're a little bit of a struggle. And the Knicks came back to beat Boston the other night by 3 points. Of course, by a clutch shot by Villanova's own Jalen Brunson. So the Nova Knicks are ahead in that series, and of course, out in the Western Conference, you have the Denver Nuggets up 1-0 against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Warriors last night beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, in the game, Steph Curry unfortunately strained a hamstring, and he'll be out for a week. So they'll have to go to battle without their star for about a
Oh,
week.
sugar.
But in the midst of all that, some people may not have heard that Hall of Fame coach Gregg Popovich, Spurs coach Gregg Popovich is calling it a career from the sidelines. Excuse me, stepping down to become the team president. And for people that have known me since my younger years, I'd say real young, let's say like elementary, right? They would know that I was a big Spurs fan in elementary school and like junior high school, up until like when Tim Duncan got there. I wasn't a big Tim Duncan fan because he used to hurt North Carolina and went to Wake Forest. So, I liked him, but I was like, I can't root for him but so much anymore. But I can remember before the days of Gregg Popovich, the Spurs were kind of in limbo, like not in limbo, but they were one of those teams that was pretty good. They were pretty good, but they can never get over that hump to get into the NBA Finals. Gregg Popovich got there. They got into the NBA Finals. Created some I shouldn't say created, but turned guys into Hall of Famers. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, um, um, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, amongst others. There'd probably be a few more. But it made me think of something, Miguel, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, and I actually meant to ask you this before the show, but we got to talking about everything else. Um, is there somebody in sports that you may have, I'll just say, admired from afar that was not associated with the city of Philadelphia? Like maybe a player or a coach that you were like, man, I like the way they go about their business, or I like how they get the results they need that they're looking for. Is there anybody like that for you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who I could possibly. So growing up for me, it was actually, I'd probably say it was a tie for two. Um, since I was in Little League and I was a catcher growing up, the popular catcher at the time, well, there was two. There was Ivan Rodriguez and there was Benito Santiago. But I was impressed with Benito because he was so like little he had a little frame,
He was skinny, yeah.
he was skinny, but he was, I think he had the longest, I think at the time he had the record for the longest hitting streak for a rookie catcher. I think it was like 17 games or something.
Hmm.
But he was one of the first to throw runners out from his knees, and which was like, oh my god, that's so amazing for the time. You know what I mean? And then as I got older in high school, I would say Frank Thomas because he was just like number one. The White Sox were always kind of pseudo my second team.
Okay.
But I always, very simplistic in his approach. Attack the baseball, short stroke, sort of a sweet swing for a right hander because right-handers aren't typically known for sweet swings, but he had a really like thorough swing, and he didn't strike out a lot. And I always preface or I always try to stress the game of contact because if you can make contact consistently, then you can do damage on a consistent basis versus trying to swing hard all the time and not being consistent, with that one aspect. So, um, just seeing him consistent, and I don't, I think he played 18 years. I think he only had 1 year where he had over 100 strikeouts.
Mm.
Everything, all the other seasons, he may have gotten some 90, but he usually struck out only like 85, maybe 90 times.
You talking about Frank Thomas?
Frank Thomas, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
Frank
now,
Thomas. Frank Thomas. Yeah, he was a special player for sure.
yeah, because nowadays it's like if you strike out 150 times in a season, that's considered a good season.
Well, now everything's skewed now. Everything's skewed now when it comes to sports numbers. But while you were talking, I thought about a couple players that I kind of admired how they went about their business. Um, First one, like I said, I was a Spurs fan back in there, but David Robinson. I was a big David Robinson fan. And it's rare to hear you're a David Robinson fan. But one of the reasons I was a fan of David Robinson was just, he was just one of the strongest. And people say he was probably like one of the strongest athletes out there before Shaq came along. He was like one of the strongest centers out there. And he just kind of went about his business. Like he wasn't flashy, but he was athletic. He was one of those athletic centers that at a time when athletic centers were not really the norm. You had David Robinson and you had Keem Olajuwon. They were super athletic, but then you had guys like Patrick Ewing, who wasn't seen as an athletic center, but he could do some things. Rick Smits wasn't an athletic guy. Will Perdue, those kind of guys. And one of the other ones was Gary Payton. I was a big Gary Payton fan. I was a big fan of Gary Payton for two reasons. I liked the way he played defense, right? And I guess as I got into like middle school, junior high school, I was a big trash talker. And I like the way he would go about talking trash. Like I like that too. He would go out and talk trash and he would back it up. I really loved it.
You know what's funny? Growing up when I was watching basketball in the 90s, I would always get him confused. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Because he played on the Supersonics, right?
Correct.
So I remember it was him and Sean Kemp, and I don't know why I would always get the two confused. And then I'm like, wait a minute, is Gary Payton the one with all the babies? But it's Sean Kemp. But I don't ask me why. I just yeah.
It happens. But yeah, Gary Payton, that was my guy, to the point where I would even call his nickname was the Glove. Laugh about it now. His nickname was the Glove. I would go out on a basketball court and call myself the Mitten. I was the Mitten. So yeah, I made my own nickname for those. I was the Mitten. I was the Mitten.
That's funny.
It is what it is. Let's talk about something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball and baseball being a dying sport. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Before we do that, you have some baseball shouts you want to give.
Yeah, do that.
You have some baseball shouts you want to give. So let's do that first, and then we can talk about it being a dying sport and maybe some ways it can be saved from the depths of.
So I said I would do this a little bit more. So just wanted to give a shout out to one of my players, Griff Wadley, who's been working his behind off between last year and this year. Initially started out as a catcher with me, but I kind of moved him to the outfield because he's got a lot of speed. And if you play the video showing him playing for Dunbar High School, he's a freshman in his first year. And I think he gave me some stats that he was at the time, batting 500 and turning doubles into triples and, breaking the hearts of many, many, many young females at his school. So I added that. He's a shy kid, but he's a good kid. So if you play that Griff video, that's from his double last week. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they made the playoffs this year. I know it was actually no, they didn't because it was Poly and City College were in the championship, and I think City
Holly and
College.
City, big rivalry there.
Yeah, and I think
Huge
City
rivalry.
College. I believe City College won, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, yeah. So this is Griff. One of the things he worked on was shortening his swing, and he actually started off as a switch hitter, but kind of struggled with it a little bit. He said he's been working on it. So, looking forward to coaching him starting in about 2 weeks. That's when our summer season starts. And then another young man, his name is Alberto Weaver. He's a player that I worked on and off with. He wasn't necessarily on my team, but he played up for me, meaning he was on a younger team, but he would come help us out because he met the age requirement. Um, I remember having like this real big looping curveball that got everybody out, um, but he couldn't hit a curveball. But he worked on it and then wound up being MVP of his team at Northwestern, and during his junior year, I believe. So he committed to Eastern Mennonite University for pre-physical therapy, and he's on a presidential scholarship. So I just want to give him a quick shout out because he's a great young man, always smiling, very respectful, but is an absolute hard worker, is accountable, and Eastern Mennonite University, you got a great player on your hands, a great teammate on your hands. So I just wanted to give those two guys a quick shout out.
All right. Shout out to them. And I know, shout out to everybody I know from Dunbar and everybody I know from Northwestern. Man. Shout out to all of y'all. Um, Muggsy Bogues,
Muggsy
Northwestern.
Bowles.
All right. So let's get into this conversation about baseball. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to go with the Deion?
We can start with the Dion comment, and then we can go into the Cam, and we can go backwards. So Dion, then Cam, and then we can post the John Madden quote because I think that kind of
Okay.
rounds out what we're kind of dealing with.
All right. So here we go. Let me get myself together here. Sorry, y'all.
You want to do the Dion one, and then I'll do the Cam one.
Yeah, I got the Dion one ready right here. Oh, here it is. Okay, here we go. So the question was why aren't there more black players in the MLB? And I'll just go ahead and get this.
MLB. The reason we're not prominent in it, first of all, we don't have fathers. Second, baseball ain't cool in the hood because baseball takes a lot of work, a lot of training. Girls don't dig baseball players. Girls like the physicality of a football player, the dominance that he portrays. Girls are cheerleaders in the sport as well as basketball. Why aren't there more black players in the MLB? The reason
I can't disagree. Well, the fathers thing, I don't know. I had my father growing up, so the fathers thing, I can't speak to that. But the the popularity of it in minority neighborhoods. Let's put it this way: it's probably more popular in brown neighborhoods, Miguel, and you can speak to that better than I can. I'm assuming it's more popular in brown neighborhoods than it is in black neighborhoods. And the only reason I assume that, and correct me if the assumption is wrong. I know in the brown neighborhoods they're playing basketball and football too, but I feel like there's so much more representation on television of the players that it can garner more interest, right? Like I was interested in the team that had the players that looked like me back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I was able to grasp onto that. With Latino players all over the league, And that's something that kids of those of that culture can really, I would think, can kind of grasp onto. But I'll let you speak to that, Miguel.
So, and I think we actually spoke about this a few years ago. I think maybe the first couple episodes. When it comes to recruiting for Major League Baseball, it's easier. I want to say baseball isn't the sexiest of all the sports. I will agree with Deion on that. But when you purposely create academies in the Dominican Republic, in Aruba, in pretty much all of the islands, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you spend your scouting money in those areas. Some of this is dollars and cents. A Latino player is going to be offered a minimal amount of money that's going to be like millions to him. And like, okay, I'll give you an example. Carlos Ruiz, Chooch, right? Possibly one of the greatest catchers in Phillies history, was drafted at 16 for I believe $18,000 out of Venezuela as a second baseman. Of course, he's going to take that money because I believe the exchange rate is like quadruple or whatever the case may be. The other thing is too is that with Latino players are usually they're born with the game, I guess you can say. They can play the game for hours. They can practice the game for hours. But they also are very versatile. Not to say that black people aren't versatile, but usually maybe one or two positions they'll play. But Latinos, like if I was one of the kids was actually one of my kids from a previous team was like, "Hey, do you need some players for an upcoming season?" Right. So he gave me the list of the two players, the one person, pitcher and second base. That's it. The other one was a Latino. He's like, yeah, he plays second, short, third, left field, right field, center field, and he can pitch. So he does everything but catch. So there's that aspect of it. It kind of goes back to like, dollars and cents. Major League Baseball is going to invest in Latino players. I don't care what anybody says. I don't know that it's necessarily less black people playing the game versus being shown the options and just choosing the options.
I feel like, and this is just from my little world, I feel like there's less playing. And the reason I feel like there's less playing, partially because one of the things you said of choosing not to play.
Hmm.
The other thing is not having the programs in the areas to play at a younger age, right? I feel like growing up, and you always see it, and I never really understood, I guess, until I got older. Moms always want to see their kids in a baseball uniform for some reason. Even if they never liked baseball or something like that, it seems like moms would always want to see their sons in a baseball uniform at some point in their life. Not saying that every kid has played baseball, but you do see that. Um, and one of the things that I can speak to is to play baseball, to have a pickup game, you need a certain amount of people to play. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to have 9 on each side, but what I am saying is you need to have at least a handful that are willing to play. And a lot of times for me growing up, that wasn't my experience with all of my friends. Most of my friends growing up were basketball players. Right, most of them, either play. They may end up going on to college to play basketball, or were supposed to, or whatever the case may be. Um, or maybe they wanted to play football, but what they didn't want to do was play baseball. And and they would say, because they don't like it. I was talking to my uncle this weekend, and he says, he had a friend that would say, the only reason you don't like baseball is because you don't understand it. a lot of people don't have that understanding because they don't grow up playing. So when they go to watch it, they don't know what they're watching. They don't know what a pitcher's duel is. They just know they're not seeing as much scoring as you see in football and basketball. I think that's why a lot of us don't watch hockey, because there's not a whole lot of scoring in hockey and soccer, right? Soccer's a little, and I'm just talking about the black community. Soccer's different in the Latino community because it's a big sport around the entire world outside of the United States. It's the biggest sport in the world outside of the United States. We are weird here in the United States. Y'all know that. But I just feel like, if there were more feeder programs, like the program I grew up playing baseball in no longer has baseball. Mm-hmm. Like the program, the actual organization, I think went away, and then when it came back, basketball, winter and summer program, and I want to say it might be soccer, and there was soccer there when I played, but no, not baseball. They want to get baseball involved, and they're talking to me about it, but it's not there. So, that's just one of those things. You got to, and baseball's a game like golf, like boxing for the most part. You got to get into it early to be good. Because people that do get into it early are getting good, and it's hard to become good later on in life in baseball. It's very hard to do that. And it's not like you could just pick up a ball and have a catch with yourself.
Right. It's also very expensive because you're talking about a baseball bat, a real good one could cost you between $300 or $400. Same thing for a custom glove. Not that you need a custom glove, but a good one, at least 100, 120, maybe 200. Then you got batting gloves, you got cleats. Like it's a pretty expensive sport.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include, especially if you get older, playing for these travel organizations. So you have to have, either money saved up or, you got to have all this, and it's a shame because, me and my coaches, in my organizations that I've coached, we always talk about the same things. Like, it's not us charging the parents these absorbent fees. It's these organizations, like, literally just finding any and everything to charge people for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember the one tournament that we're probably never going to do again, but it was down by just outside of Ocean City. No, just outside of Rehoboth Beach. And
Bash at the Beach. I know exactly.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
They made us buy our own baseballs.
Yep.
And I didn't know that. And my boss had called me, like, don't pay them nothing. I'm like, well, if I don't pay them, then we can't play. But I got reimbursed, which was cool. But it was like, you're charging me for, and it was baseballs for the entire weekend.
They also want you to pay the park.
Correct, which they never used to do before. So it's like, and now they're doing the whole the entry fee for parents.
That's what it was. Entry fee. I'm sorry, entry fee.
It's the entry fee for the parents. So now, in order for you to actually sit and watch your child play, after we paid the organization $5,000 to enter our team, we also need you to pay $15 for the weekend to get the little band, or $8 a day. I'm like, these organizations they're gonna make baseball not fun. They're pricing it out is basically what's happening.
Yeah, they really are, and I'll go ahead and say it may not be by accident. Okay, I'll just say that may not be by accident. Excuse me. We also have a comment from one Cam Newton. He had some opinions on it, so I'll drop that. I have that ready to go.
Okay.
I'll drop that in. Actually, I'm gonna put it here, and I'm gonna refresh it.
I love his
Baseball is like a dying sport. For those who take offense to it, it's just the truth. Who's really paying attention to baseball? Especially paying attention to baseball in the regular season. Can I make a hot take? I think baseball will be surpassed by WNBA in 20 years. Baseball is like a dying sport.
So, oops. Sorry about that. Remove the wrong thing. I don't disagree with him. A couple things, like I know, being a baseball guy, I know people that pay attention during the regular season. But I will say this. And it all changed for me when the Phillies won the World Series. I don't pay attention as much during the regular season if the Phillies are not contenders.
But do you do the same thing in basketball? I don't. But here's the thing. I don't think that you can. In today's day and world, like you're talking about 162 games, and now you've heard me argue that 162 games I think is too many games. I say you cut the season down a little bit and maybe add more playoff teams. You know what I mean? If you're talking about like balancing out the revenue, go back down to 144 games. You know what I mean? And then make the rest of the games after that like playing games for the month of like September or something. But it's not just in baseball though; it's all the sports. They're all going through gimmicks, like with the All-Star games, like hockey with the All-Star game. They probably have the best gimmick to have people watch the All-Star game with the what was the Four Nations tournament or whatever. Freaking brilliant. But I think I think the best sport literally is football because you have time in between to analyze the loss or the win from the week before and to predict what's going to happen next week. That whole thing, that whole week is like, wow, that's it's perfect.
Yeah, for baseball, you have one day to focus on it during the week. But baseball, you have multiple. Basketball, you have multiples.
It's impossible. It's impossible to do. Like to be able to concentrate on every single day. That's why it doesn't pick up until like August when the pennant races start narrowing down and Phillies.
But here's the thing. It's kind of always been like that, right? But baseball, it's always like baseball has always been the same. But the way to follow it has changed, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, you and I, right, 80s, 90s, we would have to look at the newspaper to see what the standings were, to see what's happening out west with the AL West, right? We would have to look at the newspaper to see that. Maybe turn on ESPN and you see Sports Center or something like that back in the day, but you kind of had to purposely look this stuff up.
Right.
In today's day and age, it's easier to get the information because it's where you don't have to go get a newspaper, find a newspaper, or something like that. But it's so easy to get the information that like you can get the information easy from all the sports. With baseball, I feel like all the other sports have adapted to the changing of the times, but baseball has not. And I really tie everything back to the steroids thing. Because right around the steroids thing was when baseball was probably at its most popular. Then the steroids thing happened. A lot of guys retired, and the baseball changed the way it promoted itself. They kind of, if you pay attention, in the 90s they kind of hung their hat on specific players, not just one, but specific players from all over the league, all their all-stars. They don't do that as much anymore. For whatever the reason may be, I don't know if they're worried about, steroids thing or a behavioral thing that happens now that the world is smaller. I don't know, but the other sports do, even kind of hockey in the sense they do a way better job of promoting their brand better than baseball. To me, I think baseball has gotten a little better, but it's still worse than everybody else.
Yeah, I think them fixing the speed of the game, the watchability of the game, I think we're going through a transition right now. Like I didn't think I would like, the pitch clock or the bigger bases. But when you point back to 1998, when they were like, if you go through the laundry list of players at that time, you had Tony Gwynn, you had Barry Bonds, Frank Thomas, you had Ken Griffey Jr. So you actually not only had all these players, but you had different styles. You had your power hitter, you had your run Ricky run, You had the kid in Ken Griffey Jr. So you
Mhm.
had all these like spirits and attitudes, and you had speed and you had power. I think what killed baseball for the longest time is their focus on just hitting home runs and nothing else. It completely killed it because and everything else. Oh well, we can't do any. We want to do the least riskful play. It got too safe, and it let these Harvard and Yale and UPenn analytic people that sleep with their dogs or whatever um, take over control of the game and slowed it down and dumbified it and made the games longer for no reason, and it became baseball is the chess of all sports. So I'm saying like there's only so much you can do with the game. You either like it or you don't. But with everything that analytics and the analytical approach has done to the game, it made it just so boring. Because the best thing about sports is that there's risks being taken. You know what I mean? There's a risk of somebody coming into the paint, against a bigger guy. There's a risk of throwing a ball, a one-on-one ball up in the air. There's risk involved. With baseball, it played it too safe. It went base to base, it was just too much. But once you start getting that action in, and you start stealing bases, and you start, with the great diving plays and stuff like that, you're going to start to see the excitement of the double and the triple versus the single home run, the solo home run.
I have a suggestion, and I feel like I believe I made this suggestion on this show some time ago of one way, and I don't have the whole thing thought out, but one thing I would suggest is to find a different way to broadcast the game. And
what other way?
Here's what I mean. Let me explain what I mean.
Okay.
In baseball, when you're watching a game, 99% of the time when you're watching a game and the pitch is being thrown, you're seeing three players: the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter, and that's it, right? Mm-hmm. Now in basketball, you're seeing all. I mean, it's a smaller space, but you're seeing all 10 players in the same camera frame. In football, before the ball is snapped, you're seeing all 22 players in the same camera frame. Hockey, same thing, right? And I know baseball, they're all spread out, but they got to find a way to. The presentation is a boring presentation. Maybe if they give us the view from the umpire, right? The umpire cam,
which was the original view when baseball games were first televised. There was no center.
Yeah, that's probably what we need, like something like that. Because one thing that people don't realize is how hard it is to hit a baseball, and how hard it is to see a baseball that's coming 90 miles an hour. And that kind of will give you kind of a perspective on how good these guys are. There's a golf tournament, a PGA golf tournament happening not too far from here in the Philadelphia area, where if you go out and play golf, let me use me as an example. If I go out and play golf, I'm not a good golfer. I go out and play golf, I have a good time, but somebody that might be a little better than me might be out there, and I see them playing. Maybe they're playing ahead of me, and I see them playing, and I'm like, wow, that guy's pretty good. But it's not until you see the professionals in person that you realize how good the professional players actually are, right? You can't imagine how good a golfer is until you've played the same hole that golfer has played, and your results, and you compare those results. Like that's a comparison. When you watch baseball, you're seeing the ball from the pitcher's from behind the pitcher. You're really not seeing, like, you're able to see the ball well. That's great. But you're not getting a feel of the game, right? And all the other sports, you can get a feel of the game because you're seeing all the players all at one time. Baseball has to find a way to change that up, because we've been seeing it like this for the 40 years, at least 50, 60 maybe. I don't know. Got to change it up a little bit. Got to change it up, because watching a sport and only being able to see three of the players at one time, we got to figure something out. Just my opinion. My opinion.
You got to figure out where you got to figure out where to put that digital strike zone.
Yeah, that too, because that's coming. That's on its way. You found before we move on, you had some analytic talk or data versus talent talk.
And this is from Joe Madden, who was probably not the inventor necessarily of it, but definitely a strong user of it when he was the coach in Tampa Bay, and definitely when he's with the Cubs. And he makes it plain. And I think this is after his last hit with the Angels. I think he had like a come to Jesus moment with all of the processes that happen in pregame, and he says, can numbers teach competitiveness? Can numbers teach instinct? Those are the things that separate winners and losers. And I think this is where baseball shot itself in the foot, because baseball games are no longer competitive. It's because it took away the instinct. You know what I mean? Because again, if I'm one of the fastest players on the universe, and analytics saying, well, we don't want you to run in this situation because it's too high risk, you literally have pulled the heart and the will of that player from him.
I wonder what Ricky Henderson would have said had analytics been around during his tenure. Like,
he would have said,
analytics say, Ricky, you shouldn't run here. Like,
he would have said, Ricky's gonna run. He like he wouldn't. Ricky's gonna run, and Ricky gonna make you some money. You know what I mean? That's what he was at.
They dulled and bored up the game when they got too analytic-y. Joe Madden made it to 2 World Series, 1-1 with these analytics, and the whole world went analytic crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to mess up. Okay. All right. You were talking about some umpires. A lot of times we kill umpires on this show, right? But you found some cool umpires. You want to introduce it?
So just you don't really see umpires that they have personality, other than they've really been more confrontational lately. Really quick to throw somebody out of a game because of a look, a stare. It just becomes silly. But this one umpire, Chris Guccione, he seems to get it. He seems to be having fun with the game, and just 2 instances below where he's showing how much fun the game can be.
And can Wade tag him? He can. What an athletic move by the first base umpire, Chris Guccione. And
they might be athletes too. Hey, what the heck?
Again. And can Wade tag him? He can. What an athletic move by the first base umpire, Chris Guccione. And
the second one is more athletic though, and entertaining.
Let's see. I'll be the judge of that.
Yesterday, his average starting position was 310 feet. Today, play by Gooch. That was a good play. I don't know if you saw his. Yeah, there you go. Put on a show. Put on a show yesterday.
Yeah. I texted him last night and I said, if they ever put together the umpire Olympics, you're going to go be a candidate at the decathlon.
David Rackley is cracking up.
Vertical.
There's been some.
Oh, didn't mean to do that. I'm hitting the wrong buttons all day today. So yeah, the second one, I guess, I would say the second one had to be more athletic because you had to hand-eye coordination, had to catch the ball. The first one, you just had to be reactionary, where he just had to jump to avoid getting his ACL, MCL, UCLs, and his Achilles tendon all ripped to shreds, because that's probably what would have happened. So I'm glad he was able to avoid that. And then we're going to turn back the clock a little bit. Okay, so there was a time. You go ahead. You found it. You found it. Introduce it.
I'm always into the whole history thing, especially Phillies history. But something had popped up on my timeline from the National League Championship Series in 1993. I believe I was 13 years old. This was the clinching game that would propel the Phillies to the World Series in an improbable season. But in the seventh inning, baseball has a seventh inning stretch where they say, take me out to the ball game. While they invited a conductor and I can't remember the name of the conductor at the time, but he came out to help orchestrate the singing of Take Me Out to the Ball Game in Philadelphia at Vet Stadium in front of a packed house. And this is what happened.
In this series about the Phillies and their unkempt style, so they brought in Steven Gunzenhauser, the music director of the Delaware Symphony, to lend a little class and dignity to the proceedings. And what happens? They stole his baton as he was conducting the seventh inning stretch rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball.
I don't care what anybody says. I love my city.
I remember that. I didn't remember it when you first brought it to my attention, but when I saw the video, it refreshed my memory of that. Yeah, and they were talking about how Philly was so unkept compared to, I can remember in the World Series, somebody in the crowd from Toronto. I remember this vividly. They had a sign that said, "May the better looking team win." Because there was so much talk about, Phillies, the guys had the long hair, the scruffy beards and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Blue Jays were more so clean cut and, stylish looking.
Gotcha.
All right. So we have some dummies. All right. I just realized how much longer these show notes got. I had to scroll down to find some stuff here. Excuse me.
We can skip the new sport. We can do that next.
No. We're going to show the new sport.
Okay, sir.
I just didn't realize that that's what was up there at the time. But we're going to show this new sport. So there's a new sport called Run It. Okay, and if you haven't seen this, it probably will look familiar to you, to certain people. It's a collision sport, and it's. I'll just put it up there. Y'all ready to see this? I'll just put it up there.
Far from his feet.
Defender ready! So now Lutalava's turn to carry the pill. Here we go. Run it! Oh, yeah. Head all of that. Oh, and Popovich, he is out on his feet.
I want to watch it again.
So far from his feet.
Defender ready! So now Lutalava's turn to carry the pill. Here we go. Run it! Oh, yeah. Head all of that. Oh, and Popovich, he is out on his feet.
So here's the crazy thing. That's why I wanted to look at it. Here's the crazy thing about that. My man was out cold on his feet. He was out before he hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And his head didn't even get hit. It didn't look like there was any contact to his head. Like he didn't catch one on the chin. It didn't look like that. It was just a man. Wow. And I like how the video said Power Slap ain't got nothing on this. Because Power Slap, I don't know how that became so big, but I mean I kind of do. Social media made it big. This will probably be right there with it. What you think?
Absolutely. But it goes into our morbid sense of entertainment, like the how people like to watch like crash videos or damn like broken bone videos, stuff like that. It feeds that desire for the grotesque, and it's another. Guess what it's going to be? It's going to be another thing to bet on.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Because I guarantee you're going to hear it next week. Run It, brought to you by FanDuel.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I can see that. I got a big dummy. You want to go with mine first or yours first?
We'll get yours first.
All right. So this big dummy, I don't even know. I I'm gonna just let y'all see it. I'm gonna just let y'all see it because where's my? Oh, I gotta actually
Yeah, share
it first. Sorry, guys. It's been that type of night. All right, so here we go.
What the fuck?
I just want to see it again because
what the fuck?
Didn't the ball go in?
no,
Oh, I thought the ball went in.
no, it didn't go in. It did not go in. Matter of fact, the ball flew out his hands. I don't even think the ball went into the rest of the game. I think the ball fell out or something like that. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. No, it came back, but it didn't go through.
Okay.
It didn't go through. Didn't go through the rim. Come on, man. Big dummy. Why would you do that? All right. Which one are we doing for you? Here we go. We're gonna do first one first.
The dummy ump. Apparently, this umpire is the first in history to call a third strike for the walk.
It was a strike call, but not an emphatic one behind the plate. Where there's confusion for all parties. Is that strike 3? Was that? I mean, we're gonna need that microphone that's being worn down there to be put to good use.
Strike ball 4.
Strike ball 4. Classic. Silly me. I'll write that down on the scorebook.
He called that a ball?
I thought I heard strike, but I didn't see any physical gesture.
Oh, Mark Pryor's hot.
Yeah, he's gonna come out and say, what language are we playing? Physical signal.
Strike ball 4.
But that certainly sounded like a strike.
He said strike. It sounded like he said strike. He didn't give a signal. You know, it's the right hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it sounded like he said, how do you not call that a strike? It was damn near down the middle.
Well, that's going to be corrected with the robo umps by next season anyway. So
yeah, I see. All right, so this next one.
So this next dummy tried to use a different way to catch a baseball, and I'll just leave it at that.
And he struggled with it. You could tell he was struggling with it. Now the wind is not blowing like it did earlier. Look at my drop. He just totally whipped it. And Taylor's throw was over. He had a force play. Watch him see with his, oh man, off the glove and off the dome. He's saying, oh man, what happened?
He closed his eyes.
Remind you of a certain player we coached.
Yeah,
we can't do it.
Well, that player will remain nameless. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go to the you have a damn this week. We're gonna move on.
Yes. So I will affectionately call this the first and the last time. This is this person's first fight, and it's his last.
Oh! Wait a minute. Hold on.
You okay over there?
I'm gonna tell you what it is. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you what it is.
It's not supposed to get funnier. Each time you play,
it gets funny every time I watch it, and I'm gonna tell you why. But there's a reason why. The person gets hit, right? They get kicked, they get hit, and their head snaps back, right? But then as their head snapped back, their head kind of goes back again, as if their brain just now thought to try to dodge that kick. I'm gonna play it one more time to see if you pick up on it, okay? And that's what made me laugh. All right, just watch closely. Did you see it?
It was a bang. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like
it was the second shooter effect.
It was the last stream of consciousness that they had left. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. Okay, so I didn't open my big mouth. I didn't open my mouth and even went to the basketball. Opened my mouth and went to the basketball. A one-time All-Star.
You should get this.
A one-time All-Star, 1990-91 All-Rookie Team, 90-91 Rookie of the Year. 90-91 Rookie of the Year. Somebody, I should get this. And he made a two-time All-NBA team, number 44.
Mm-hmm.
1990.
Mm-hmm.
Are these jerseys in order of the teams that are they in order?
No, but so he was on one team twice. So I'll give you the 4 teams he was on.
Charlotte Hornets.
Yes.
New York Knicks.
No. The team is closer though.
Sixers.
Yes.
So the Charlotte Hornets. I got it. You ready to put the picture up?
Go for it.
Derek Coleman. And the funny thing is, I was just watching a video. Did you send it to me? I don't know if you sent it to me. Maybe did Goose send it? Somebody sent me this video. Maybe I came across this video of Derek Coleman when he played for the Sixers. I want to say it might have been like 96 because Allen Iverson was on the team.
Yeah.
And he got into a fight with Corliss Williamson, who was playing for the Pistons at the time. And he had Corliss Williamson on the scorer's table, and he was just wailing on, like, bringing haymakers from way back here and just wham, wham, wham. And I don't know where I had to find that video and show it to you because I guess you were not the one that sent it to me. But yeah, Derek Coleman, man, a very underrated player.
Didn't he have a heart condition?
Did he have the heart? He might have had the heart condition, but he had a long career though. I don't think that ended his career. I don't think. But yeah, Derek Coleman, man, and from what I've heard, a very generous person as well. A very generous person back in Detroit, and does a lot of good things. A Syracuse University graduate, or he played for. I don't know if he graduated, but he played for Syracuse University. And he spent some time as a Sixer. So, people in Philly loved Derek Coleman when he was here because he was a hard-nosed player and would go after. They just were not good at the time, unfortunately. I don't think he ever won a title.
He never did. I did find that video though.
Oh, the video of him fighting?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take this out and but we could show it on here.
Let me
we're live, so
I know. What are they gonna do?
They could just, whatever. It's probably it's on their platform anyway, so they'll be all right. Well, we're going to show you this video of Derek Coleman getting into a fight with Corliss Williamson back in the day, and then we're going to get up out of here. And we appreciate y'all hanging with us and checking out the Check Swing podcast. But here's a little video clip of the scuffle. Oh, it was the Kings. It wasn't playing for Detroit. It was the Kings. Look at Larry Brown. Here it comes. Whoo! Whoo! can't believe you try to do that to me. And then they back up off of it. And that was at a time when I want to say the Kings were actually good at that time too. I think the Kings were good. I think did they have Chris Webber yet? I'm not
They
sure
should
if
have,
they had
yeah.
Chris Webber yet. I'm not sure if they had him yet, but they might have. They might have had him at that time. It depends on what year that was. But man, NBA fights, boy. You know, some people in the NBA will fight you. Some people will not. Some people are taught, and some people will fight you. So, for the people that always say, you know, NBA players don't want to fight. No, there are some that do want to fight, but most of them do not. Most of them do not want to fight. But look, we're gonna get up out of here, man. We appreciate y'all hanging with us here on the Check Swing Podcast once again. Goose said, "What in the Street Fighter?" Yeah, that was listen. I don't know if I think he might have been talking about this video. He was talking about that one.
You just had to get that in. You just had to get it one more time.
Had to show it one more time. But look, we're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us once again here on the Check Swing Podcast. We will talk to you next week, probably next Tuesday. But if not, it'll probably be next Wednesday. And if not, it'll be next Thursday. But we are going to talk to you again. You got something?
Can you play the video out? Play that as the last thing we say for the night?
Absolutely. I'll do it. Here we go.
Now, Patrick Mahomes, watch this.
Intercepted, picked up by Cooper DeJean, gets a block. DeJean is